18 years ago, deep in the mountains of Guizhou, a major highway construction project was underway. Towering mountains surrounded the area, while dense forests and scattered villages stretched across the landscape. Life there moved slowly, untouched by the rush of modern cities. Among the workers on the project was a young engineer. He was hardworking, ambitious, and constantly traveling between construction sites. Like many young men, he dreamed of building a successful future, but he never imagined that a routine assignment would completely change his life. Every day, he would pass through a small mountain village on his way to the construction site. At first, it was just another village among many others. But one afternoon, while stopping to rest after a long day of work, he met a young woman from the village. She was simple, kind, and carried a warm smile that instantly caught his attention. Their first conversation was short and ordinary. They exchanged a few polite words before he continued on his way. But for some reason, he couldn't stop thinking about her. A few days later, he found himself visiting the village again. Then again. And again. At first, he made excuses. Sometimes he said he needed directions. Sometimes he stopped to buy food or water. But deep down, he knew the real reason. He wanted to see her. The young woman also began looking forward to his visits. Whenever she saw him walking into the village, she couldn't help but smile. Weeks turned into months. The two spent countless evenings talking beneath the mountain sky. They spoke about their dreams, their childhood memories, and the lives they hoped to build someday. The engineer told her stories about the cities he had visited and the places he hoped to see in the future. The young woman listened carefully. In return, she showed him the beauty of village life. She introduced him to local traditions, mountain trails, and the peaceful rhythm of life that city people rarely experienced. For the first time in years, the engineer felt truly at peace. Eventually, their friendship grew into something deeper. Neither of them needed to say it aloud. Both knew they had fallen in love. Unfortunately, happiness rarely lasts forever. A few months later, the highway project neared completion. The engineer received news that he would soon be transferred to another province for a new assignment. The announcement felt like a storm crashing into their lives. They tried to stay positive, but both knew what it meant. The day of departure finally arrived. Standing at the edge of the village, the engineer looked into her eyes and made a promise. "Wait for me." The young woman remained silent. "I'll finish my next project and come back for you. I promise." She believed him. With tears in her eyes, she nodded. Then he left. At first, everything seemed fine. They spoke regularly on the phone. They exchanged messages. They shared stories about their daily lives. But as time passed, things slowly changed. The engineer became busier. The projects became larger. The responsibilities increased. Phone calls became shorter. Messages became less frequent. Weeks passed without contact. Then months. Eventually, communication stopped altogether. The young woman continued waiting. Every morning, she hoped to hear from him. Every evening, she wondered where he was. Whenever a stranger entered the village, her heart would race. Perhaps he had finally returned. But it was never him. Years passed. Friends and relatives encouraged her to move on. Many suitable marriage proposals came her way. Some of the men were wealthy. Some owned businesses. Others came from respected families. But she refused every proposal. The villagers often asked why. She always gave the same answer. "I'm waiting for someone." Most people thought she was foolish. Some believed she was wasting the best years of her life. Others admired her loyalty. But regardless of what anyone said, she remained firm. Deep in her heart, she still believed he would return someday. Meanwhile, the engineer's life followed a very different path. He spent years moving from one project to another. He traveled across cities and provinces. The pressure of work consumed his life. At first, he often thought about the village girl. But as years passed, the memories slowly faded into the background. Life became a cycle of deadlines, construction sites, and endless responsibilities. Then one evening, everything changed. While sorting through old belongings, he found a photograph. It was an old picture taken many years ago in that mountain village. The moment he saw it, memories flooded back. He remembered her smile. He remembered her voice. Most importantly, he remembered the promise he had made. A promise he had never kept. For a long time, he sat quietly staring at the photograph. Regret filled his heart. The next morning, he made a decision. He would return. No matter how much time had passed. No matter what awaited him. He needed to go back. After a long journey, he finally arrived in Guizhou. The roads were no longer rough and difficult. Ironically, some of the highways he had helped build years earlier now made the trip much easier. As he approached the village, he noticed how much everything had changed. New houses stood where old wooden buildings once existed. The village looked more modern than before. Yet somehow, it still felt familiar. Nervously, he began asking villagers about the young woman. Most people didn't recognize her name at first. Eventually, an elderly woman pointed toward a large house near the mountains. "She lives there," the woman said. His heart began pounding. After nearly 2 decades, he was finally standing just moments away from the person he had once loved. Slowly, he approached the house. For a moment, he considered turning back. Perhaps she was married. Perhaps she hated him. Perhaps she had forgotten him completely. But it was too late to retreat now. Taking a deep breath, he knocked on the door. A woman appeared. Time had changed her appearance, but her eyes were exactly the same. She looked at him politely. Neither recognized the other. 18 years is a very long time. She welcomed him inside. The engineer decided not to reveal his identity. Not yet. Instead, he introduced himself as a traveler looking for food and accommodation. She smiled and explained that she now operated a small guest house. The engineer sat down and looked around. Certificates and awards covered the walls. Photos from different stages of her life decorated the room. Everything reflected years of hard work and perseverance. As evening approached, she began preparing dinner. The engineer offered to help. Together, they cooked while chatting casually. Their conversation flowed naturally. They discussed village life, family, and work. Then the engineer carefully asked a question. "Are you married?" The woman shook her head. "No." The answer surprised him. He hesitated before asking another question. "Why not?" For several seconds, she remained silent. Then she smiled sadly. "Because I waited for someone." The engineer froze. His heart felt heavy. He already knew the answer, yet hearing it directly from her hurt more than he expected. Slowly, she began telling her story. Many years ago, she had fallen in love with a young engineer working on a highway project. Before leaving, he promised to return. She believed him. 4 years, she waited. At first, she counted the days. Then the months. Then the years. Eventually, she stopped counting. But she never forgot. The engineer listened quietly. Every word felt like a knife piercing his heart. He wanted to tell her the truth. He wanted to apologize. But fear held him back. Dinner was finally ready. The two sat across from each other. She served him sour soup beef, the same dish they had once enjoyed years ago. The engineer took a bite. Instantly, memories returned. The mountains. The rain. The laughter. The promises. The heartbreak. Everything came rushing back at once. For a moment, neither spoke. The room was filled only with silence and memories. As the night grew darker, the engineer realized something important. Some promises can never truly disappear. Some people leave footprints on our hearts that time cannot erase. And some loves remain alive even after years of separation. Now he faced the most difficult decision of his life. Should he tell her who he really was? Would she forgive him after all these years? Or had too much time already passed? Sitting across from the woman he once loved, he finally understood that the answer would determine not only his future, but hers as well. And for the first time in 18 years, he found himself hoping for a second chance.